At some point today, you will walk somewhere. To your car, across a parking lot, maybe a mile in total, and you won't think about it once. 2,000 years ago, that same simple act was how you went to war. A Roman soldier marched 18 miles in 5 hours, carrying 60 pounds of gear. Then he built a fortified camp before he was allowed to sleep, and he did it again the next day, and the next, for weeks. All of it walking toward one field and one stranger who would try to push a spear through your stomach. Here's the part nobody tells you. The battle itself usually lasted a single afternoon. Everything else was the walk, the waiting, and the fear. Dust. A wall of shields. Thousands of feet hitting the ground at once. So what was it actually like to stand in that line? The answer changes everything you think you know about how battles were really won, what the fighting actually looked like, and what it took to make it home. You are one ordinary soldier trying to survive one ancient battle. Let's start with the road. Because the road decided more wars than the sword ever did. It is the 1st century BC. You are a farmer's son from the Italian countryside, and you have signed on with one of Caesar's legions marching into Gaul. Not for glory, for the pay. 225 denarii a year in silver. For the loot, if the campaign goes well, and for the promise that keeps every soldier walking. Land of your own when it's over. The recruiter never mentioned the walking. Your pack weighs around 60 pounds. Armor, helmet, a shield, 2 javelins, and a sword. Then the second life on your back. A cooking pot, days of grain, a shovel, a saw, 2 wooden stakes. The soldiers had a nickname for themselves, Marius's mules, named for the general who decided every man should carry his own world. A Roman training manual written by an officer named Vegetius preserves the standard, 20 Roman miles in 5 summer hours. At the military step, in formation, under full load. That's about 18 modern miles. Recruits who fell behind were drilled until they didn't. And when the day's marching ends, you do not rest. Every single night, the whole army builds a fortified town from nothing. A ditch dug around the entire camp, the dirt piled into a rampart, the stakes you carried all day planted along the top. The streets follow the same grid every time, so any soldier can find his tent in the dark inside a fortress that did not exist 3 hours earlier. Rome didn't just teach soldiers to march. Rome built an army that slept behind walls every single night in the middle of enemy country. The shovel conquered as much of the world as the sword. But the road is where the real enemy finds you, not the Gauls, the water. You drink from streams that 10,000 men and their animals have churned to mud. Blisters split and fill with dirt. Fever moves through the tents. For most of military history, disease killed more soldiers than the enemy did. Not just in Rome. That stayed true for another 2,000 years, into the 20th century. Think about that. The deadliest part of going to war was the trip. Then one evening, the scouts ride in hard. The enemy has stopped retreating. They have chosen their ground. Tomorrow, there will be a field. The night before a battle, the camp goes strange. Quiet in some tents. Too loud in others. Men check straps that don't need checking. Before Rome fights, the gods get a vote. The general sacrifices an animal, and priests read its organs for approval. The army even travels with sacred chickens. A keeper throws them grain in front of the standards. If the birds eat greedily, the gods smile on tomorrow. If they refuse, commanders have been known to postpone entire battles. You watch those chickens like your life depends on it. As far as you know, it does. At dawn, you form the line. And here, you need to forget every ancient battle you have ever seen in a movie. No wild charge into a swirl of single combats. No hero carving through a crowd. That version was invented for cameras. A professor of war studies in London named Philip Sabin spent years reconstructing what Roman battles were actually like, working through the surviving accounts, battle by battle. In the year 2000, he published the results in the Journal of Roman Studies, in a paper called The Face of Roman Battle. Here is the shape the evidence supports. The 2 lines slow as they close. They stop short of each other, screaming, hammering weapons against shields, hurling javelins, working up the nerve. Because ordinary men do not happily run into a wall of pointed metal, not even trained ones. Then, somewhere down the line, a surge. A few dozen men charge. Shields slam into shields. For a few unbearable minutes, there is stabbing and shoving and a noise you will never be able to describe. Then, the 2 sides come apart again, a few steps each, panting behind their shields. That was ancient battle, not one long melee. Bursts of terror, with pauses to breathe and bleed. Swing your arm as hard as you can for 5 straight minutes, and you'll understand why. No one on Earth could fight hand-to-hand for a whole afternoon. Most battles were decided in 1 to 3 hours. But here's what's fascinating. For most of those hours, most of the men on the field never swung a sword at all. If you stand in the 4th rank or the 8th, you cannot even reach the enemy. Your entire job is to stand there. Step forward when the man ahead of you falls, and refuse to run. That was the whole war, compressed into one instruction: don't run. Because the formation wasn't just a fighting machine. It was a machine for keeping terrified men in place. Your shield guards the man on your left. His shield guards the next man. The line holds only as long as every frightened farmer in it keeps choosing to stay. And that is the secret of ancient battle. The sword didn't do most of the killing. Fear did. A battle line doesn't get chopped down. It shatters. The break usually starts at the back, among men who can hear the slaughter but cannot see it. A few step backward. A few more follow. Then the whole formation dissolves at once, and thousands of men are running, throwing away shields, weapons, anything with weight. The battle is over. The killing is not. A historian at Davidson College named Peter Krentz combed the ancient sources and tallied the casualties from pitched battles in the Greek world. Winners lost about 5% of their men. Losers lost about 14%, nearly 3 times as many. And most of the losers died after their line broke, cut down from behind as they ran, by cavalry that had waited all day for exactly this moment. Roman battles followed the same brutal arithmetic. In an ancient battle, the safest place was your place in the line. The deadliest thing you could do was the most human thing you could do: run. The ancients even gave the monster a name. The Greeks believed sudden, senseless, contagious fear was the touch of a god, the wild god of the empty places. His name was Pan. He is still in your mouth today. Every time you say the word, panic. If your line holds, you live. Probably. A gash that means stitches today can kill you in a week once it turns bad. And antibiotics are 2,000 years away. You strip the enemy dead. You bury your friends. You wait your turn to have your arm sewn shut. And you carry something home that never fully leaves. That flood in your chest when the line nearly broke. Your body still ships with the same alarm. It fires before a job interview, before a hard phone call, in traffic. The machinery that once decided whether you died on a field in Gaul now goes off in a parking lot. Picture the field at sunset. Shields lying where they fell. The road you marched in on running quiet past the camp gate. Somewhere inside the rampart, a soldier scrubs another man's blood off his arm. He eats his ration. He counts the years he has left to serve and thinks about a piece of land he has never seen. Tomorrow, the army walks again. At some point today, you will walk somewhere. To your car, across a parking lot, no pack, no line, no field waiting at the end of the road. The most ordinary thing you will do all day was for most of history the most dangerous journey a man could make. History remembers the commander, the date, and which side won. For the man standing in the line, victory was smaller than that. He was still alive when the sun went down. And the men who stood beside him, history never even wrote down their names.